All right, I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting of October 13th. That's at 6:05 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Maiorino. Here. Mr. Craddy. Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi. Here. Mr. Guerin.
Here.
Mr. Quagliano. Mr. Gentry.
Here. If I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And students from Martin Elementary.
Come on in, everybody. Come on in, Mark family. Alrighty, real quick before we start the pledge, though, because I think many of us have not had the opportunity to meet our new assistant principal at Martin Elementary. So, Mrs. Wyrick, I'd like to introduce Michelle Wyrick. So, if anybody hasn't had a chance, this is the new assistant principal. So, welcome. I'm very excited to have her on our team. She's been super proactive and just, jumping right in and really helping out with everything. So, thank you, Kelly, for everything you do. But behind me, I am super excited to have the following students come up and introduce themselves. But before we do, I want to recognize on how these students were picked to come to represent Martin. So at Martin, we have a school theme that is Be the Light. We end each morning announcement with a challenge for our students. Remember Martin Huskies. It's time to learn something new and to shine bright and ask yourself, how can you be the light to others? And the students behind me are definitely shining bright on not only the students around them, but the staff as well. So when it came to Martin having to come in October, Martin typically does the pledge much later in the school year, and we usually will have some recognition at that point, and those students come and do it. It's super easy, one and done for me. But this year was at the beginning, and I'm like, how can I handpick students, myself, to be recognized for the pledge? So of course I went to our lunchroom supervisors, our staff that really makes an impact every single day on our students. And I said, I challenge you to find these students that are shining their light on others in one of the most unstructured times throughout the day, at recess and at lunch. Many of these supervisors already had a person in mind because these students behind me have been doing that since the beginning of the year, and some of them since they've been here in third grade. So I applaud them for shining their light on others. And I thank the parents for investing the time and energy into your children because you made my life much easier at school, so thank you. So the students behind me have stepped up to that challenge of shining their light. They've been recognized for being consistently kind, including of others, compassionate, caring, respectful, and living by what we call our Martin principle of making a difference. So I applaud these students by being the light and making that impact for everybody around them. So students, thank you so much for being those impactful students, and I'd like you to come up. Come right up here, say your first name, last name, and your grade level, and then we'll start the pledge. So, Matthew, you want to come up first?
Yeah.
You want to lead us in here, Matthew?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Baby. Yeah. I got my daddy with me.
Yeah.
And my mommy.
What's your grade level? What grade are you in?
Boo.
Yes. Great job.
Yeah.
My name is Rylan Rednick, and I'm in 4th grade.
Mihai Kamensky, 5th grade.
My name is Brinley Shimshak, and I'm in 5th grade. My name is Anthony Sharpie, and I'm in 4th grade.
We had some students in third grade that could not make it as well, but we do have a little certificate for them, so we'll be giving that to them in school. So if I can have the kids come closer, and we can all start the pledge together.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to briefly take some pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, let's set on up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Yeah. It's style.
Parents, you can come up.
Great job, you guys. I'm gonna take a couple, okay?
Thank you, guys. Great job,
You don't have to. Okay.
Okay, thank you all. With that, we'll move on to the next, agenda item, as I will pass it back to Mr. Quagliano to handle our public comment.
Okay. No public comment tonight? Okay. Appreciate it. Okay, item 4 is revision and adoption of the agenda. Are there any items that anybody would request changes on? That, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
can we pull, legislation? I don't know.
Here. All right, that's item.
Item 10,
Yeah.
no
Okay.
report, thank you.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, presented with the exception of the removal of item 10, the legislation committee.
Second.
Second from Ms. Lundy. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Yes. Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino? Yes. Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Okay, motion passes. Item 5, curriculum and instruction. Mr. Guerin.
Thank you very much. 5.1 is McHenry County Cooperative for Employment Education. Dr. Lemke.
Yes, good evening. Want to present a wonderful partnership between Huntley 158 and the MCCEE Collaborative. We are recommending that the board approve the intergovernmental agreement with McHenry County Cooperative for Employment. The IGA is an annual agreement to support and secure our participation with the Education for Employment Collaborative. This collaborative provides leadership, professional development, and curriculum development for coursework related to our career and technical education, or CTE group. This is mandated under Perkins legislative grant for program development and accountability. Through our participation in our local EFE, we attain our CTEI and Perkins funding each year to provide equipment, certifications, and necessary items for our students and CTE courses. And attached, you have the intergovernmental agreement and a board amendment.
Any questions from anyone on the committee? Anybody not on the committee?
Thank you.
I do, is this a new program? Is this?
No, we've had a longstanding partnership with the group. This is an opportunity for us to sign an intergovernmental agreement as a part of the resolution that they've been asking for a signature this year.
Okay, and I was skimming through this, kind of looking through this, waiting for the presentation. So the target groups are students and adults in the community, and where do these classes take place? Are there hope schools for the classes that are taken, like where? So we've been a part of this.
We have, so we use Perkins, the Perkins grant annually supports from equipment in the food lab to purchasing, tools in the shop. And what this intergovernmental agreement does, my understanding is it will create a kind of managerial oversight for all county schools. So every school in the county is passing an agreement just like this to allow that third party to support both McHenry County College and the local high schools in management disbursement of those dollars, but then also professional development that's common, aligned with best practice for all of our teachers to guide our students around kind of in a similar path. And then, Mr. Kennedy, if you have any specifics, I'd welcome your comments.
Yeah, no, you did a great job.
Yeah, that was exactly it. So this is something that we've actually been a part of for many, many, many years, but the state has just started to ask for these IGAs to be signed in order to basically solidify that partnership that we've had. But it's been a long-standing agreement we've had. The last IGA went into effect in 1986, they said. So this is just a revised version of that agreement, just to, again, like I said, to solidify that, and everybody in the county is, Dr. Rose said, is
It's kind of the theme in the curriculum section of the agenda this evening. Things that have been in place already that we're just kind of reaffirming through the formal process.
So you haven't seen this for, because now you're saying this is new to enter into these agreements, but I'm looking at this and this is, and it's kind of exciting and it's kind of cool. And, when you look at like this is for high school students, but we'll be using this for more professional development then for
for staff.
Yeah, for our staff.
Yes.
Okay. And then we get the reimbursements for this from the Perkins Fund?
Correct.
That's what we're,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah, which is about $72,000 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Any objections to moving it forward to the next meeting? All right, with none, we'll move that forward to the next meeting and move on to 5.2, the e-learning day plan. Dr. Kendall.
Hi, good evening. Tonight we bring our e-learning plan forward to you. As Dr. Rowe alluded to, we are trying to make sure that we have all of our T's crossed and I's dotted with all of our different plans that we have in place. So, and to be in compliance with school code, we do need to have you, the board, approve our e-learning plan. We've been implementing this since 2020. We've had it last year as well. Nothing has changed in regards to how we plan to structure those days, but we utilize e-learning in place of emergency days or inclement weather. Every 3 years, the Board of Education is required to approve this through us presenting our plan to you, allowing you the opportunity to ask some questions, and then we would, next meeting, be moving this forward to the resolution board to a public hearing, and then you officially vote on it, so that then we can implement it. It's an every 3 year type of process, and then once you have approved it, we then submit our plan to our McHenry ROE. They will then approve our plan and then say that we're good to go. They have already seen our plan, and they have seen our resolution, and they've approved what we've submitted so far. You can see in the memo that there are specific criteria that we need to meet, such as 5 clock hours of instruction, ensuring that our students know the schedule, that we communicate with our families, that we have opportunities for our students with special needs to still receive their services. And so we successfully implemented this last year and throughout 2020 and 2021, and we just want to move that forward and continue with that plan.
I guess the funny thing is, the plan's been in place, but we have yet to use an e-learning day. Thankfully, we haven't had to, with the inclement weather we've had the last couple of years. Now that it's hopefully, I'm sure it's going to happen this year, but this does kick off a series of actions internally, where the next steps would be obviously, upon your approval, would be to remind our staff of their responsibilities and ensure that they have all of their ducks in a row for if they had to enact that plan. But communicate with staff, communicate with families so that they're aware of what that plan would entail, when the communications would be going out, if we ever had to make that call. But the ultimate plan would be is on a snow day or some emergency day, we would use this instead of canceling school for the day. We do still reserve the right to cancel school for the day if that's what's best for our students and staff. But as we've done in the past, we chose to do that on a January day instead of a New York day. This will probably be our go-to that person.
Just have one quick question, and just to clarify, we still can also go with the option of a delayed start, or we still have that option?
You're absolutely correct, I appreciate that, we'll add that to our communication, but the delayed start is definitely in play. Again, you've yet to use that, you have to use that, but it's still
It's nice to
structured
have that.
there, 100% agree.
Mhm. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just had a question. Dr. McCringle, you mentioned a public hearing. Do you mean just at the next board meeting? Okay, I just want to clarify, there's not going to be any type of separate, okay,
No, we can just move it to our next board meeting, and we've published it, and we're good to go.
great, thank you.
All right, with no other questions? Oh, you have one?
Quickly,
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, has anything dramatically changed? I mean, especially with what we went through with more utilization of e-learning during COVID. I mean, did we modify this significantly at all?
From the original plan, we did because we, obviously throughout COVID, we got very much better at our remote instruction.
Always had to get feedback on what worked.
Correct. And so we have adjusted the times, we have synchronous instruction. Our original conversations back in 2019, I think we began even talking about this plan, was to do more asynchronous instruction, and now this includes synchronous face-to-face, get on the computer, Zoom, because we know that our students and staff can do that. And so our plan does include live instruction and also the opportunity for students to access the learning through our learning management systems. And so I think we've made it better because we were able to do it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Not, I would recommend we move that forward to the meeting next week and move on to 6, Finance Committee. Bosman.
Yeah. Sorry. Item 6.1. These are our payables, so we have our purchase orders and fresh checks, payables, disbursements listed. Questions from any of the committee?
No questions for me?
Okay, I have no questions. Does anybody on the board have any questions concerning those items? Seeing none, then I will move that we push it forward to the board. Consent. Item 6.2 is monthly fiscal updates. Mr. Earl.
Thank you very much. Normally, I tell you I only have a few things to talk about and it should be fairly quick, but today, we're going to talk about, well, finalizing our debt restructuring and all of the work that we have done, well, over the past 10 years with our debt restructuring. But first, let me start with the FY22 audit. So we have reviewed the audit report results and ticked and tied all the numbers in the audit report. We are just tweaking the management discussion and analysis, and the auditor will be binding those reports next week. Initially, we were hoping that the auditor would be here next week, but the auditor's partner is actually on vacation next week. So as we did last year, he will be here for the first week of November to present the audit results to the Board of Education. So just wanted to share that. We are still waiting on preliminary EAV reports from Kane County and McHenry County so that we can begin the process of the FY22 levy. So stay tuned on that. I'm hoping to have something by next week, but not really holding my breath. Sometimes with Grafton County and a few of the other townships, we don't always get our reports as timely as other districts. And then lastly, the final phases of the debt restructuring plan. So as you recall, last month we approved the parameters resolution to move forward with the final phase of the restructuring. And there was a closing that happened just a week ago. And in that closing, we had 3 separate bids, and there was a bid, again, from 2 years in a row from PNC Bank. They were the lowest bidder at 3.88% to refinance $12.47 million through 2027. So it's a very short-term financing. So even though that 3.88 seems fairly high, I think we all know rates have been going up. But when you compare that to last year's rate of 1.92, and you compare it to the previous rate from 2020 of 0.55% all the way up to 2.94%, seems pretty high. However, that being said, this being the final phase of the restructuring, the final one-year wall of restructuring is doing exactly what we wanted it to do in terms of, well, the 3.88%, we're only financing that over a very short period of time through 2027. So the total interest on 12.4 million is only, I say only, $931,000, but if you look at a lot of the other issuances we've done over the years, and we've done a lot of them, we pay a lot more in interest because, well, it's a longer term, right? We pushed all that debt out much farther. So over the years, we've done 8 to 9 separate refunding, separate issuances, almost approximating $150 million of issuances over the years. So this has been a long haul to get us to where we are so that we have a very good plan moving forward and a debt structure that is affordable to the district and certainly to the community. So I did want to point that out. And back in 2017, we brought PMA on board, and PMA, Bob Lewis, working with Eric Anderson, and then BMO Harris, which is now Piper Jaffray. He was Piper Jaffray. We kind of changed course because if you remember, the very first couple of years of our debt restructuring, we had talked about doing a multi-phased approach, but really we had talked about doing a 1, 2, or 3 kind of structured approach. And back in the day, in 2017, if we would have refunded the rest of the debt at that time, and we were having discussions about just getting it done. Rates were fairly good. Let's just get it done. Let's do the restructure all at once. We took a step back, working with Bob Lewis and PMA and Piper Jaffray together, and we said, well, maybe we should be looking at separate tranches year after year and understanding the break even of why do we want to restructure debt in the future, and let's understand the break even of every single debt restructuring. So over that period of time, we have done 6 to 7 actual additional refundings rather than just 1. And because we did those 7 additional refundings, and we analyzed those refundings one by one versus all at one, we actually saved the district approximately $18.6 million compared to the single debt restructuring we would have done in 2017. So bringing $18.6 million of savings, debt savings to the community is a pretty big win for the community and the district. So I did want to point that out. At next month, I will share charts and graphs as part of my finance fiscal memo to share some of those things with you as well. So did want to point that out. In addition, I do want to note that the 3.88% and that final debt restructuring is a forward rate lock. So just as we've done for the last 2 years, we will close on this final year of the wall restructuring on October 7th, 2023. Last year, we did the same thing, and in January of last year, we approved the 1.92%, $11.8 million refunding, and that just closed this past week on October 7th, 2022. So that is now done, a done deal. That's been closed. And we have another now rate forward lock to close on October 7th, 2023 for $12.47 million. So I'm just extremely pleased that we've been able to save the community the money that we've been able to save them. I'm certainly happy with our new restructuring and how that's going to impact us in future levy years. And I do want to say this is not necessarily the end of me using the word tranche because we still have an opportunity out there. In fact, we talked about it last month. We talked about possibly refunding the 2014 bonds, but with interest rates climbing over the last month, it kind of fell out of the money a little bit. So we didn't restructure the 2014 bonds. I'm looking at my audit report right here, and the 2014 bonds, well, that's $47 million of bonds that we have outstanding on the 2014 series. That's correct. I believe it is correct. And they range from interest from 5% to 5.625%. Let me make sure I'm right on that, Ben. The audit report.
I was going to say, get the other. Take your time. While you're looking it up, I'll comment real quick. The bottom line.
No, I'm sorry, guys. Totally wrong on that. That was a 2013 series that is labeled wrong in a 2013 audit report. The 2014 general obligation bonds are $7 million with interest ranging from 2% to 4%, which is why they were out of the money. So we still have another opportunity if rates drop over the next year. As per the parameters resolution, we will continue to monitor, the team will continue to monitor interest rates. And if they come into the money, we will have another refunding of the 2014 general obligation bond. Sorry about that. No,
The bottom line is,
the wrong page.
that's more, we just accomplished the final phase of taking out high repayment cycle that we had. That type of stuff would be purely just to take advantage of lower interest rates.
Correct.
That's
And being able to lower.
the heavy lifting on all of this is done, thankfully. Anything further on that?
Nothing else on the fiscal update. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Kevin, I don't know if you want to comment at all on any of that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot there.
it's just hard because it's a dry topic. And it's hard for people to conceptualize, so I'm not going to get into it. But at the end of the day, it's been a long haul, and we got through it and fairly favorably. And especially the graphs you'll share at the next meeting will be a lot easier for people to follow.
I think it's worth pointing out, Mr. Allmeyer, how much, because the board took this type of action over the course of 10 years, restructuring this wall in the way that we have, how much money did we save versus doing it the other way?
Well, what we've quantified since 2017 is that $18.8 million of savings.
Yeah.
That's one of those numbers that you just put the dramatic pause in there for that to sink in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, so it worked out. We had a long period of lowering interest rates. It worked out, and then just at the very tail end started to work against us a little there. But the strategy of leaving open the shorter period completely minimized the overall effect of the higher interest rate. So it was an effect.
Yeah, and I just comment on, I mean, it isn't a glamorous topic, but it's just done in a very thoughtful, methodical way, taking advantage of what the market gave along as we went through. And to this last point of just being smart with the order of events, put us in this position to, have this last piece of it at the shortest term possible. So we got all the benefit of the very, historically very low rates along the way, and then hedged our bet enough, and it really paid off with this last step. So, kind of exciting. It's dry, but not really dry.
No, it's for us financial geeky types. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool the way it worked. Yeah, but it's for everybody else. It's probably okay.
But you all got to watch for the pictures next time. That'll tell the story.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Allmeyer. Move on to 6.3 here, our revenue and expenditures report.
Thank you very much. In front of you, you have the August 22 financial executive summary. Second month into the year, continue to track within budget, within all revenue and expenditure accounts. Nothing really to note other than health insurance. Unfortunately, health insurance claims, average claims for the year for the 2 months ended August 31st, 2022, are averaging approximately $900,000 per month versus the $750,000 per month in prior year. That represents almost a 20% increase year over year, 2 months into the year. I do want to caution, it is only 2 months into the year, but I did want to point that out. So we will continue to monitor, as we've always done, the large claims in and out of the pipeline, because the majority of that cost is large claims for the months of July and August. Other than that, if you look at the dashboard, certainly there's a lot of red currently on the dashboard on the revenue side, and we see that every year at this time because a lot of the revenue line items don't really start to come in until the school year starts, whether that's Medicaid, National School Lunch, food services. idea room and board, that's a reimbursement line item. So nothing really unusual there. We continue to trend, with expectations. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have on the August Treasury report.
I have none.
And here,
Any other board members have any questions concerning the expenditures report? Okay, and nothing further to add, Mr. Allner, you're good there? Move on to 6.3, which is our revenue and expenditure. Not expenditure, it's our revenue contracts. 6.4.
We got several fundraisers.
Yeah.
Crowdfunding, cookie dough. We got no tie shoelaces. By the way, I almost bought a pair of those, but they're for elementary kids.
Okay.
Pizza and chocolate, so
Yep.
we got some good stuff here.
Okay, yeah, we have 6 different fundraiser items. Any questions from Gentry or anyone else? Yeah.
I don't know how important it is for this to be on the memo, but at the bottom, it looks like there's the dine-in share for the dance team. Very, very bottom. That's Panera. I just don't know if it needs to be on the memo or not.
It's a very
So you're talking about
It's the last two.
So the authorization forms, right? You're
Yes,
talking
the
about-
authorization form, and then we've got a,
Yes, I am.
which one?
the last two pages, pages 15 and 16.
16.
It just makes
I'm
sense
sorry,
when you
Not
list
amongst the
in.
list.
Right, I just didn't know. if it
Yeah,
was
it's not amongst the list. It probably should not have been included, is correct. Because it's not more than $1,000, it didn't make the front of the list for board approval.
Got it.
But because it didn't make the front of the list, it shouldn't have been attached either, so, but that's why it's not on the memo.
We made $500.
That'd be nice if it was a conflict scenario.
All right. So,
Okay.
yeah, so excluding the item that doesn't technically to be listed on there, is everybody okay with what's list? So we'll move that forward to the board for approval, consent, so therefore we can move on to item 7, which is HR committee, Mr. Gentry.
The first item up is 7.1, health insurance rate recommendations. Dr. Zier.
Yeah, this memo has information on the recommendation from the Health Insurance Committee for the 2023 health insurance rates and any carrier changes that we're going to recommend also. So I'll walk you through the memo here. First off, we'll start off with our medical plan. Blue Cross Blue Shield has been our go-to carrier for medical insurance for years. They will continue to do so. We still have the 4 plans, the HMO Blue Advantage, what we call our PPO1, PPO2, and our HSA. Our broker, Alliant, did some negotiating with Blue Cross Blue Shield and got this down to a 5.8% increase across the board for medical insurance. In their opinion, they thought we did pretty well coming back, with inflation, what it's been, and other circumstances that have been out there. If you recall last year, the increase was like 0.4%, so very minimal. Now, what does that mean for our employees? If we go down to the bottom of this memo, January 1st, 2023, I've got 3 stars there. There is some contract language in the current HEA contract that is shifting the board's contribution. And we had a 70% board contribution going to the second highest costing plan for employees on Employee Plus One and family coverage. It was at 70, that is increasing to 75%. So actually what you're going to see when we look at these rate sheets here in a second, for the employees in most of the areas, there's going to be a decrease in the premiums that the employees actually pay. So we'll get to those in just a second here. Our ancillary plans, dental, vision, life, and long-term disability, the major change we're going to see this year, the recommendation is to switch our dental back to MetLife. Since I've been in this role, we've come full circle. We started with MetLife. We've had Guardian, Lincoln, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we're coming back around to MetLife. We're currently with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The reason for the change, you can see the explanation here. From last year's premiums, we're going to see a 6% increase. What MetLife was willing to give us, though, they were willing to give us a set rate for 2024, and then they were capping the increase at 7% for 2025. Blue Cross Blue Shield was only going to give us a one-year deal. So the committee felt at least locking in those 2 years, and then with a cap for 2025, it was best to switch back over to MetLife. So the employees will see an increase slightly in those dental premiums and rates, but at the end of the day, over the next 3 years, we should be pretty comfortable with that. So obviously very difficult to predict what 2025 will bring us. For our life and long-term disability, our rates did not change there. We got tied in with Lincoln again for 2 years. And then our BSP vision, we're going to be in our last year of a 4-year guaranteed rate. And we still offer at the employee cost AFLAC voluntary accident and AFLAC voluntary critical illness. So if there are any questions about those items, I want to pull everyone over to the rate sheet and what the employees actually see when it comes time for them to pay their premiums. When this committee comes together, the rate sheets are what everyone's interested in because they want to see, what is going to actually come out of their pocket. So while these rate sheets look complicated, no, all right, they are complicated. So we're going to walk through these a little bit. There's a lot of work going on in the background in the Excel document to get these calculations. So that first sheet, that's our 24 pay employees. 95% of our employees are 24 pay, and they work off of this sheet. So those are the current rates that our employees are paying per paycheck in 2022. So the next rate sheet is what they will be changing to in 2023. So you can see that board contribution going up to 75% on the second most expensive plan, which was barely the HMO, I believe there. Yep, just by a little bit, by a few cents. So that's how we use that calculation there. So the employees, talking obviously with HEA, that they knew this change was coming and something Mr. Altmeyer has budgeted for and prepared for as we come into this year with that contract language change. So, for the most part, the employees are going to be in a good position. Most of our employees, if we were to rank these plans out, what they're taking, the HMO Blue Advantage is where most people fall there. So the HMO Blue Advantage family, you can see that premiums coming down pretty significant per pay. Just take it times 2 for the monthly. And then also at the bottom there, you can see our dental deductions. So those 2 rate sheets I bring to your attention for comparison. The final rate sheets, I didn't bring a comparison. Most of our employees don't fall under these rate sheets. We have our 17 pay employees who choose not to be paid year round, so that calculation looks a little bit different. And then we also have language in our contract for individuals who are employed by us and they are spouses. So there's some unique language in that HEA contract, and you can see those rate sheets and what those folks would be paying. And that's pretty much what I have. I'll field any questions about rate sheets, plans.
I'm gonna, all this time we've worked on negotiations and stuff, I've never actually stated this or brought this here, talked about it, but our rates are regardless of age, correct? I mean, this is the rate for everybody regardless of what their age is.
Correct.
And the reason I say it is because in private, outside this environment, everybody's insurance rate is based on what their age is. What we're paying in the private sector, our premiums are completely based on our age. So people who are group are paying considerably more than somebody who's like 30 or And so we have no differentiation for that. It's all, our actuary in the insurance thing looks at what our census is of our employees and comes up with an average, and so everybody's just falling within this average.
Correct.
That's what's occurring.
Yep.
So just warning everybody, if you ever go out in private, you might be shocked at how you're, the older you are, you're paying a lot more for insurance than what you would see here. This is from my standpoint, fairly reasonable insurance rates. We negotiate this stuff, but I'm just telling you, in real world, my client base, what they deal with the insurance rates, these are pretty exceptionally good.
Yeah, and historically, if we go back, through negotiations, the board has contributed a significant more amount, and we also switched to that percentage amount, which makes the board and the district responsible more as it increases. We used to have some language in there where the employee and the board shared those increases, but that was eliminated 2 or 3 contracts ago, where we went to that straight percentage. And just real quick for the employee only, I didn't mention that in here because there wasn't a change, but it's 95% of the HMO. So you see some very reasonable rates there. If you see the $5 off to the side, the $5 off to the side is we do have language that you have to pay at least $10 a month in premium. So if you would roll back to the dual rates, you'll see that all the plans except for one are $10 a month for those folks. I think we have 16 or 17 dual couples in the district at this time.
Those negative amounts that are on the page really don't.
Yeah,
They don't. Well, it does mean something for them because they can roll it into dental. So if you get, if you want to look at that, well, actually on the front page, you see a little bit there where I say dental deductions with the applicable credit. So if you do choose that HSA, that $20.61 is that credit that would go towards your premium and create a new premium for you, and it won't go below $5 per month. If you do go to that dual page, you'll see it gets a little more complicated there, where essentially every dental plan, except if you were employee plus one, with that PPO one, it would be $651 instead of $5. So.
Gotcha.
So it does roll to the dental.
You can spend the credit, you just can't cash out the credit.
You cannot cash out the credit. It goes to the dental and it stops there. It doesn't roll on to vision or life or anything like that. It's very specific language that it goes to dental.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Thank you. Bring us to our next item, a couple job description updates, Director of Fiscal Services, along with Registrar job description.
And these are just some updated job descriptions. I worked with Dr. Budzinski and Mr. Altmeyer as they have those positions. Actually, we're getting ready to fill both of them. Hopefully here at the next board meeting, we'll have recommendations for those positions, but they just needed some updates since the folks that were in those positions were in there for a while, and we hadn't reviewed the job descriptions in quite a while, so we did some updating to the language to make it last a little bit longer and make it more better descriptive of what they're currently doing in these positions.
Good. Any questions with those? We will move those forward for approval at the next meeting, which will bring us to building and grounds. Mr. Troy.
Thank you. I see we have Mr. Kevin Lindquist pinch hitting tonight. Welcome. Item 8.1, we'll get you started right away with O&M updates. Anything to highlight in there for the month?
Yes, O&M updates. As you can see, the long list of items here. There's 4 I really like to touch base on. You may have a graph on the solar array installation savings dashboard update. Since January 1st, 2021, the district has saved with solar $464,609, which is outstanding. And then fiscal year 22 alone, we saved $293,000. The guarantee on that was $210 to save. We saved $293, which is really amazing. And then The next item will be, the natural gas, contract hedging. We're signing a new contract with Symmetry as of, April 23. The decatherms on that are 53 cents a decatherm. I think our previous contract was 49 cents, so. Sorry, I'm rolling here. Is there any questions on that?
No, it's okay.
No, you're fine.
You're doing fine. Yeah, this was one of those where, I spoke with Doug, and we saw an opportunity to jump and adjust our, strategy a little bit. So, I went ahead and added signed the agreement in order to hedge that amount.
Yeah.
Right. So is it, did we modify how we were doing 50% spot, 50% fixed? Did that modify it, or you were just modifying what you're doing on your?
I think we added some more stability to this at a different rate, if I recall correctly.
So you probably fixed something.
We fixed another 25%.
For the winter months.
I'm sorry?
For the winter months.
For the winter months, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for the minimum months, because the rates were really starting to get away, in the market with everything going on. And we really were looking at the rates, and we knew what happened last year to a lot of other districts. And I think I talked about it last year. There was a lot of neighboring districts around us that had gas bills come in the millions of dollars. In other words, they burned their full year budget in 1 month because of the vortex, right? I think it was the month of February. And because of the strategy that we use in purchasing natural gas, we weren't impacted. And we were a little lucky, but we weren't impacted. But we could have been. And so we started to focus a little more on trying to make sure we have a strategy going into the winter months and that we're locked and that we have a supply there, just in case we need to pull from it. Because if we have another February like we did last year, we don't want to be one of those districts that utilizes 12 or 18 months of a budget line item in 1 month. So, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's perfect.
Carry on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else to highlight on there, or there's?
Not on the gas hedging, no.
Okay.
This next one, I know we're, ourselves and Dr. Rowe are really excited about this. We're updating the stadium lighting at the high school and the tennis courts to LED. This has been an ongoing conversation for many years to get this done, and we came across this company that is doing this for us at a cost of just over $28,000. So the good news is this is going to be done by the end of October, or else they won't get their incentive money from the ComEd efficiency program. I just got word that they're probably going to start next week on that, if possible. They're waiting on some control work. So, any questions on that?
Yeah. Put it in perspective, we priced it out $228,000 if we did it on our own.
Okay, right.
With the incentives, $28,000.
Yeah.
So is this going to increase the amount of lumens that are on the field?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to
I know
go.
that's been a topic of conversation as well as the brightness of.
We're going to go from 30-foot candles to, I think, the average 50-foot candles for the playing field surface.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the state high school average is 50. College is 75.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
And lastly, on that update, I'm pretty excited about this one too. This summer, we upgraded 42 hand dryers at the high school, and with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, we were able to get a total incentive of $10,080, which is the total cost of all the hand dryers from ComEd. And then we installed them in-house ourselves. So, high-efficiency hand dryers.
Cost neutral.
Yeah.
Great job, Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job, team.
All right, any questions on any of the other items that are on that, overview, the O&M updates? All right, not hearing any. I'll move on to 8.2. This is the extension of the farm agreement with Fruin Farms. Anything to highlight on this one? Seems very straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Fruin Farms is looking to rent our land for the next 4 years again for $228.70 an acre, which is, we found is a fair price as we've done some research for the acreage in the state of Illinois. Pretty straightforward on that one. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions from the committee?
Is this the property over at Marlowe?
Yeah, I believe it's the property north of Reed Road, property here. I think that's it.
I think it's all any of the farmland on the.
All the farmland.
It's all,
Yeah.
it's all of our farmable land that we do have.
Okay, thank you.
And they've been doing this for quite some time.
They have, and this, contract will go from next year to 2027.
I think we've done 4-year cycles with them in the
Yeah.
past.
We have.
I believe we've done a couple of adjustments over time, like the solar and some of the other things that have, taken up some of the farmland space, but by and large, they've been with us for a long time.
And they've worked very well with us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on numerous things, whether we need, you know, additional corn up for, you know, windscreens on occasion, and things of that nature. They've been great to work with.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any objections to moving this forward then for the next meeting? All right, not hearing any, we'll move that forward. Next item, 8.3, HR Green Professional Services. Anything to highlight on this one?
Yeah, this one's, the continuation of the, asphalt repairs over on Reed Road campus. This is Martin's bus lot, the drive link between Martin and Marlowe, and the entrance off of Halligus to Marlowe. This is a T&M base, not to exceed, contract with HR Green at $96,770. Doug had the contract looked over, with the lawyers and everything's pretty straightforward with that as well. I know there was a, rendition last year, you guys looked at about a roundabout for the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what we're gonna go with yet, but, that's why we're getting this contract with HR Green to get it figured out.
Any questions or objections with moving this forward then? All right, not hearing any, thank you. Moving on to 8.4, the change order number 2 with the contract with Verigy for the bus charging initiative.
This is a hot topic. This project is moving really fast right now because the electric buses are arriving in a month.
Well, we initially thought they were going to be here in September, October, but this past week we have reached out to Central States, our Bluebird electric bus provider, and unfortunately they've run across a few supply chain issues, and then they're not forecasting potentially December, maybe January. So we are still wanting to do everything we can on the EV infrastructure side, especially at the charger side, to make sure that when those buses do arrive, because there is still a chance that they could come in late November, that we are certainly prepared for that. But I'm glad you brought that up because we were just recently notified that they were pushed back a little bit, so.
Not terribly surprised.
Sorry, this change order is just a minor adjustment to the scope of work. We've been tweaking with engineers on how to do this thing. Any questions on the change order?
Not hearing any questions, any objections with moving this forward then? Hear nothing, so we'll go ahead and move that forward as well. Moving along, 8.5, the ISB FY23 Round 1 School Maintenance Grant Application. Link list again.
I hear you guys are very familiar with this. This is a application for a matching grant of $50,000. This will help fund the Phase 4 project, which was just completed for Huntley High School roof.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the midst of working on Phase 5, which is hopefully the last phase of that high school roof. It's been a long time coming. Yeah.
Phase 6.
Yeah.
So that's next summer, Phase 5, but this grant is for Phase 4.
Yeah, I can maybe add a little bit on this one. Over the last several years, ISB has provided us a $50,000 maintenance grant, or excuse me, construction grant, specifically for these types of things. So over the years, this is what we have used it for, as roof replacements. We're bringing this to the board today because we're required under this grant to have you approve the usage of this grant money. So, once you approve the usage of this grant money, we can go ahead and safely hit that button to apply, so that we can receive the $50,000 from the state of Illinois, for this purpose.
I'm all for having that kind of support for our routes. Any questions or objections with moving this forward? All right, that sounds good. We'll go ahead and move that ahead. And then the last item for building and grounds, item 8.6, change order number 2 with regarding to Champion Paving.
This is the pavement project that just, is completed at Marlow, the parking lot project. This is a change order in our favor of credit, which we all love, right? This was for, background checks of a credit and then, signposts that go in the parking lot. There was a change order with that, and we're getting credited $4,122.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Credits are good. Any questions from the board? Any objections with moving this one forward?
Nope.
All right, there we go. Building and grounds is done for the evening. Moving on to policy.
That is me. We've got our new policy, 4.172 body worn cameras. We spoke on this at our last meeting.
Just as a reminder, as you know, the state of Illinois is requiring all police departments by 2025 to wear body worn cameras. Since we have school resource officers in our buildings, we need a board policy so that our faculty as well as families are understand how that expectation is to be applied in the school district. The main highlight is it's not on continuously. Our campus resource officers will initiate use if they're responding to an incident where police activity may be required. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Lake in the Hills is the only agency that currently has a body-worn camera in place. Huntley and Algonquin are still vetting out the product that they intend to use. Of course, we'll update you when they make that decision, but they're not anticipating that until closer to 2025. I will report that Lake in the Hills is raving about theirs. They're very pleased with it so far. They're getting a lot of positive feedback from their officers, and in terms of the video, Chief Frake is very, very pleased with what they've got.
And real quick, the footage that is the property of the police department.
Good point. That's a good point. Yes, the footage, although it is a student record, it is a property of the police department and must be accessed through the police department, not through the school district, if that ever became a topic. We of course would assist family in doing so, but that has to go from family to the police department. I appreciate you bringing this up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for people that maybe might have missed it last time. Are there any other questions from anyone? I will move that forward to our next meeting. And moving on to the
Board of Education. So, to me, and we have our minutes, so we have our minutes from the COW, December 1st meeting and the regular meeting of 9/15. Does anybody have any questions concerning those minutes? If not, we'll move those forward to the board meeting for approval. Item 12 is closed session. So I'd like to make a motion to move into closed session at 7:04 for the items enumerated in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gentry. Can you roll call, please?
Mr. Troy?
Yes?
Mrs. Valenti?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Margarino? Yes. Mr. Garin?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Okay, we'll be in closed session. Everybody can go on. we're back from, closed session. It is 7:58. Can we have roll call?
Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Garin,
Here.
Mrs. Melendi,
Here.
Mr. Gentry,
Here.
Mr. Quagliano,
Here.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Here.
Mr. Troy,
Here.
Mr. Craddy.
Not here. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting at 7:58. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Maiorino. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.